This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. We are on with Mac Robinson of 92.3 The Fan, and we are in the early parts of OTAs. And I think this is the best place to ask this question because this is before, there's always one wide receiver that shows out in OTAs, right? That like nobody thinks is going to make the team, but like they make a name for themselves there. Before that guy gets to dilute the waters of this conversation, I want to have a conversation about who we think has a chance to really surprise Browns fans come August, right? We're talking about under the radar guys. Maybe they were on the roster last year, maybe they weren't, but UDFAs, guys like that. I'll throw another name in there that might not technically qualify, but I think should. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of surprises. We're going to see a lot of reps in camps from a lot of different players. Mac, when you look at some of the UDFA stuff that came out recently, what were your takeaways from that?
Yeah. One of the main ones, obviously, for me was that, Logan Fano, given the fact that he's guaranteed $310,000, like that's usually an extremely high price, and very much feels like almost a roster guarantee for him, which makes sense. I mean, obviously, he was thought of as a solid like mid-round prospect, and so for him to go undrafted, maybe that was a situation where his agent reached out to teams and said, if he makes it past this round, do not take us. And basically just said, like, we'll go ahead and take our chances in UDFA. And for him to end up in Cleveland, I think that actually it's a interesting position given the fact that, behind, obviously you have Miles, you have Isaiah McGuire, and you have Alex Wright. I do think that now with a new coaching staff, obviously, different thoughts and philosophies in terms of special teams. I know the majority of the defensive staff is still here. But to have somebody coming in, for special teams and everything like that, I think that kind of churns the back end of your roster. So, like, somebody like Logan Fano, I think is pretty safe to say that he's on the roster. Another one that I thought was interesting was Corday Cinder from Vanderbilt,
Cinder or Snyder?
edge rusher. What is that?
Is it Cinder or Snyder?
I believe it's Sidner actually, because I double checked in the Beast from Dane Brugler, my bad. And so he had the name switch, so I think it was an autocorrect.
Yeah.
But I thought that he was an interesting name that they added in. But the one that really caught my attention actually was Devon Booth.
Well, interesting, too, real quick before we get to Devon Booth, they threw the most money for UDFAs at two edges, which kind of tells you where their draft priorities might be next year, especially because, like, I think that usually lines up wherever they try to scrape in a draft is usually like a year before they really go and attack it. Because, like, for years, the Browns are scraping 7th round, 6th round offensive linemen, and then this year they finally go out and attack it. I look at that, I'm like, oh, like they went after one corner in that whole group, but really went after two edges, right? That was interesting too, because you can add Tyreek Sapp in there. I don't think he got the same kind of money as some of those other guys, but it was like there was a kind of a clear intent there for them to try to get one of those bodies in on the roster to be one of those UDFAs at edge.
Well, and especially when it comes to Cinder, the thing that I found that was interesting with him in particular, and, Brugler had a whole write-up when it came to, his game, but in particular, it's the fact that, you're not going to get as much production, but a lot of the tools are there. He's very long. He's a good athlete overall as well. He's got good arm length, everything like that as well, good wingspan. So, you have somebody there, and again, I know we talk about, Jason Tarver, a phenomenal linebacker coach. But I also think, too, Jacques Césaire is somebody that we need to talk about more as your defensive line coach, and the way that he's able to take advantage of his guys and get the most out of those guys. I think that he's somebody that's a very, very underrated coach, in particular for the defensive line. And so getting somebody that, has a lot of the traits but doesn't necessarily have a lot of the technique, I think is something that is interesting. And especially when you're throwing out that much money for somebody like him, that again is kind of just known as a ball of clay, I think is really interesting, especially to put him into that room. And the other one that I was getting to too is running back Devon Booth. And when I saw the amount of money, because for him, he's the third highest guarantee that they gave out. And he's at $165,000 that they guaranteed for him, which is the third highest on the team. And again, given the fact that you already have Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins, what I found is interesting is that it gives you a little bit of insight into, well, under Todd Monken, does he really want like that actual, like that traditional power back? Obviously, Rocket Sanders you had as a waiver claim at the beginning of the season that has that really explosive speed, but he's also a very physical runner. But Devon Booth is very much the opposite, where he's a lot of a smaller build, coming out of Mississippi State, but he's somebody that's very shifty, has very good vision, and somebody that can, make those quick cuts when you need him to. And so I think that it's really interesting to see them put that kind of money into that spot, when I think that that is a position that is very much up for grabs, in my opinion, given the fact that you have a different type of offense here. And again, you look at what happened with what Baltimore had previously, when you had a Keaton Mitchell, when you had, Rasheen Ali in the backfield there as well, a lot of pass catchers, Justice Hill, as well as backing up Derrick Henry and everything like that too. So, having a lot of these different types of running backs in particular, compared to what you saw from Rocket Sanders last year, I think it's going to be interesting that that's where you're putting a lot of your money towards. And I think that it's why I think that somebody like Booth, and I know Matt Waldman of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio absolutely loves Devon Booth. And he's somebody that, usually like Matt, when it comes to his evaluations on running backs too, I really trust a lot of what he has to say in terms of that position group. And so for Booth to go ahead and have some of those explosive plays, and especially have the vision, I think is really intriguing, given what you already have in the backfield, and kind of is a little bit of a preview as to what you're looking for in the rest of the offense.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think in Daniel Fuise's tweet where he puts this out there, right, he mentions last year with Donovan McMillan, Lamaron James, and Aiden Huntington were the ones who received the most guarantees. And we know that two of those guys did make the 53-man rosters. I think Lamaron was on the practice squad all year, right? So, like, those guys tend to stick.
I think so. He was around there.
They treat them like day 3 picks almost, right? The guys that they spend that money on. Another guy was Diabate, right? Or Diabate is somebody they spent a extra amount of money on. AJ Green, who was here for a couple of years, one of our corners. They spent that extra money. That's one of those. I don't know if it's really where the league is going, but like if Andrew was
Anthony
early.
Bell was another one too.
Yes. It's one of those things where like Andrew was early to it, so it feels like an Andrew Berryism, but it's kind of where just the league is going as far as like how they operate here. And like you said, like the Logan Fano thing feels like after he fell past like the 5th round, he was like, I kind of just want to play with my brother. Cleveland's interested in me. I don't want to just end up somewhere random. I would much prefer just being in Cleveland with my brother. And
one quick note on that too, actually, that I did find that was interesting in doing some more research, is the fact that both Logan and Spencer actually played high school ball with Carson and Ryan. They played together in Utah, and then Carson and Ryan actually started out initially at Utah. They played all together for one season actually, and then he transferred out to BYU after the 1 year in 2024.
The gang's back together, right? We done brought them all.
I know, right?
Back together. But We're going to continue with this conversation, but first I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules, just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Judkins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game's going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. When we talk about guys who can surprise us in camp, the number one position this usually happens for is wide receiver. Like, for whatever reason, there's always a wide receiver. That Luke Floria is the reigning champ, right? I think he's the undisputed reigning champ from last year as far as guys who had a really good camp and got Browns fans still excited. You know they sell Luke Floria's jersey on the team website? 10 people bought that jersey.
I would say this as somebody, like, I covered him in high school. So, like, I also understand, like, how devout those Menor fans are.
Oh, it's Menor fans doing this. Okay. You need to explain nothing else to me now. Like,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
I understand. These are the same people who brought us Mitchell Trubisky. But in all seriousness, I wonder if Isaiah Bond has just completely fallen so far off the radar that during camp we go, hey, man, he might be good. Like, I don't know how good, but he might be good.
I'm glad you brought him up because, again, it's always trying to, whether it's listen to, some of what Nathan Segura is saying out from, Cleveland Browns Daily, everything like that, too, and kind of keeping in touch and keeping tabs with certain people when it comes to the Brown side of things. One of the things I found that was interesting that I know Nathan had mentioned before is the fact that when it comes to players that came in that first voluntary OTAs session, the one that really stood out was Isaiah Bond, and that Bond looked like he bulked up this offseason, and that he really focused on adding weight, being more physical, having more muscle mass built on his body at that point, and also too. Keep in mind, this is the first time that Isaiah Bond has had a full offseason. Like, because, again, he got brought in right before, the season started last year. And then it was just kind of, hey, go. And so, at this point, you have a full entire offseason. You have a full program that they have you on. And I don't have to worry about, any kind of, where am I going to be? Where am I going to play? Where am I going to be living? Any of that kind of situation going on and lingering on. Instead, it's just, hey, I can just focus on doing this and staying focused on, the new offense, this, that, the other. I actually think that he's somebody who can really surprise. And honestly, like, he was the one that I was going to say, actually, because I think that he's a really interesting player, and especially, like, I know we had talked about when we talked about the Deshaun Watson stuff, but when you first saw Deshaun, you saw, like, the ball come out of his hands, everything like that, you go, oh, wow, okay. Like, that's different. Mm-hmm. When you saw Isaiah Bond on the field last year, like, in person, and just, like, the speed and the get-off that he has, seeing it in person, you're like, oh, okay, that's different. Like, that, like, I've seen other players with speed, but I haven't seen players, like, in pads that are just that fast. And so seeing that, and if he's able to still keep that speed with the muscle mass, I think that that's somebody that really can jump out for people.
Yeah, and I think also having more wide receivers on this team that you can actually put on the field,
yes,
means that you could put them in, like, bunch in, like, a trip set, right? And, like, that actually be something that gives corners issues and be able to sneak one by a corner, right? I think that there's something to untap there. In that same vein, and the last guy, I'm like, hey, come August, I think we might have a different conversation about this player, because if you really look at his career and you really look at how shaky things have been for both of the camps of this guy's career, I think it starts to make sense why he's been inconsistent. It's Mike Hall. Mike Hall had his whole camp just kind of blown up by his situation, his domestic violence situation, his rookie year. And then he got injured. And remember, that injury went on forever. Right? And look, I remember people getting mad at me for bringing up, like, hey, I think we should feel a little bit weird about this Mike Hall thing. And they're like, you're just overreacting. And it's like, hey, we're in the like October at this point. And they haven't said anything, right? Like he missed like half the year. I do wonder what Mike Hall looks like when he doesn't have to deal with a legal situation, when he's not rehabbing from an injury, and he just gets to focus on football for an entire summer. If he makes a big leap, because also he was 20 years old when he got drafted to the Browns. Now, he's like 23 years old. He's the age of some of our rookies right now, right? And ultra talented. We saw the flashes both years he's been out there. We've seen the flashes with him, and I'm really interested to see what him just having a normal offseason for the first time in his career, 3 years in, does for his ability to produce. Because I think it's possible that Malik Collins has not reached the peaks that he did last year. But maybe Mike Hall makes a leap, and we don't really think about it that much.
Yeah, and, even to kind of build off of that, too, I think that entire room is really interesting. And, I think that somebody that, as his career goes along, I feel like he's just going to get better and better, even if he's a bit underrated, is Aiden Huntington to me. I've talked with people that have worked out with him in the past as well, that have coached him in the past as well. And everything that I'm told about this kid is just that he is nothing but a sponge. And that, last year he got to go to, or he got to work out with Miles and Micah Parsons, and that entire group with Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright, I think it was last offseason. So he tagged along for that. And he's somebody that as the season kind of went along, because of the fact that you had Shelby getting as much playing time as he was, you had, a little bit of a vacuum there with Malik after Malik got hurt. But the thing with Aiden is that I think that now that you have the full offseason too, and like I kind of said with Isaiah Bond there as well, are able to get into your program. You're able to understand, all right, what are you expecting of me? What do I need to do? And how do I go ahead and approach that? And getting a chance to actually sit down, break down your film, and actually figure out how do I improve, and how do I take that next step. I think he's somebody who can really kind of take a bit of a jump from year one to year two. And the other one that I'm actually really interested in too, is actually going to be it's going to be Tyson Campbell. I know that he had a great season last year, but the fact that, again, comes in midseason, fantastic. We also, the fact that he's more of a man corner. Now that you have a new defensive coordinator, how does he necessarily fit in with what you're going to be calling a lot this season as well? And also the fact that one of the big holes I think for me, and one of the sticking points that I have when it comes to the roster construction for this team so far this year is just the fact that your depth at outside corner is lacking a lot. And again, because behind Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell, and just looking at our lads for the depth chart, you have Dom Jones and D'Angelo Ross as your backup outside corners. And D'Angelo Ross is 5'8", 5'9".
We had him guarding Jamar Chase last year. I remember.
Yes, we did.
He didn't get burnt.
We did.
To be fair, he did hold up against Jamar Chase. I don't know how hard Jamar was trying, but he certainly did not get toasted by Jamar Chase, which I give him credit for.
Yeah. But at the same time, that's where I'm like, I look at Tyson Campbell and just say, hey, you did a great job last year. How do you go ahead and attack this offseason? And again, with him opposite of Denzel, I don't think it gets talked about enough just how much that move has to work for you going into this season, for that defense to work, especially now that you have MJ Emerson moving on to New Orleans, who you're going to end up playing in the middle of the season. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this defense works, especially given the fact that I mean, it's a rarity for Denzel Ward to play all 17 games, if not a miracle at times, for him to get through an entire season an entire season healthy. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of handle and navigate the depth on the outside. But I think it's why Tyson Campbell is as important of a piece that doesn't really get talked about nearly enough, just because of how good he was once the Browns got him in last year.
All right. Well, we've had a lot of fun here, but it has to end at some point. I want to thank Mac Robinson, 92.3 fan, for joining us, talking football with us. Mac, if you want people to find you, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at MacRobinson95 and on Instagram at Mac_Robinson_.
Everybody, hope y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Pete.